So Drew, I was kind of torn between buying these two different things, and I'm not sure if I should...
M1 MacBook Air, just buy it.
Wait, you don't know my entire situation yet, see? I'm trying to find a device that
MacBook Air, that's the one. Get it.
You won't let me finish. You keep cutting me off. Look, I'm
M1 MacBook Air.
You don't even know what I'm in the market for. You're making me really angry right now. I'm struggling to breathe.
Air.
Oh. Okay, I get it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Let's begin.
Johnny introduced the
M1
MacBook Air back in November of 2020, and I'm here today in 2023 to tell you that basically, in terms of value laptops of any kind, I don't care if it's MacBook or not, this is basically still, in my opinion, the best laptop you can buy factoring in cost. And nothing has really threatened it, you know? I think that there's a lot of people that I've run into in my personal lives that are in the market for a laptop, but they're not interested in spending much more than $1,000. Most of them are actually targeting sub $1,000, which kind of instantly writes off all of my love of the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros. Definitely kind of cancels out the M2 MacBook Air unless you're able to find it for discount elsewhere. But truthfully, even after reviewing the M2 MacBook Air myself, I have a hard time saying that that's worth spending the extra several $100s on when we know for a fact that with the base models, the M2 chip actually can perform worse in certain use cases than the M1. And pretty much everything that's great about the M2 MacBook Air is assuming that you care about MacBook Pro level features, but once you start specking up above 256 gigs on the M2 MacBook Air, you're getting awfully real close to the price of a heavily discounted or on sale 14-inch MacBook Pro, which is going to have way better speakers, way better display, better port selection as well. So I'm not here to talk about what's the best bang for your buck in the $1,500, $2,000 price range. I'm talking about the sub $1,000 laptop market, which I would argue is much bigger. And there's still absolutely a lot of people looking at secondhand MacBook Pros, which there's some decent options, you know. If you don't care all that much about performance, but you just want a bigger MacBook display, then you can find some pretty discounted 2019 16-inch MacBook Pros. If you're a diehard fan of the Touch Bar, then you still get that with that older MacBook, but I think we all kind of know, based on watching the updates, like with macOS Ventura, that Apple is slowly gonna start treating Intel Macs more and more like second-class citizens. Like, well, you don't have Apple Silicon, and so you can't take advantage of our machine learning and neural core algorithms that are only baked into the M1 and M2 family of chips, which is why heading into 2023, I still struggle to really recommend anybody drop that much money on an Intel-based MacBook because we know it's probably going to have thermal throttling issues, and we know Apple's not going to cater to that with their macOS updates as strongly as they will their Apple Silicon. We just had this very massive architecture change, which means that, in my view, unless your budget is like sub $400, then I'm just gonna tell you, you gotta go with the M1 MacBook Air. You can find it certified refurbished from Apple for $850, which is an insanely good deal considering that comes with Apple's full warranty. Apple makes certified refurbished basically look brand new, but you can even find it cheaper if you're comfortable with Amazon Renewed, which allows for 30-day returns if you don't like it. Same thing with eBay certified refurbished and top rated plus. You can find M1 MacBook Airs there for like very low $700 range, okay? So when you're talking about $700 notebooks out there, finding anything that's gonna have 2 Thunderbolt ports or a battery life anywhere close to the 18 hours that Apple is advertising with the M1 MacBook Air, and honestly, you're probably gonna be pretty close to getting that because if your budget is, you know, sub $1,000, then you're probably not using your MacBook for that much intensive video editing, which I may add, the M1 MacBook Air is still really good at. Like, back when I tested it in 2020, it was able to keep up with my iMac Pro in terms of performance, and I was throwing lots of ProRes 4K at 60 video on that thing, and it was able to handle it like a champ. The M1 chip, even though it may be a little bit old now because it came out in 2020, is still no slump. Like, that thing is still an incredibly capable chip, which is going to be great for writing software, writing music, or editing videos. So in my view, it kind of covers the average consumer use case and then some in terms of performance, and the fact that it's just kind of in a somewhat dated design, you know, it looks like the MacBook Air from 2018, is something that I don't think most people on a budget are gonna care about. Like, this is the true MacBook SE that I think so many people are hoping that Apple will make, but they probably never will. Sounds like in 2023, all we're gonna get is bigger MacBook Air, which is probably gonna cost a bit more than you're comfortable with. And maybe around then they'll discontinue the M1 MacBook Air, I'm not sure. But frankly, I've had discussions with people that are like, I'm thinking about buying an older MacBook, like from 2017 or 2018. And you know, if you go too far back with 2016 and 17, not only do you get the less reliable butterfly keyboard, which most people aren't a fan of, or the touch bar, which allegedly crashes all the time, but you're also not going to be getting the latest version of macOS anymore. So you can find those secondhand, and they will probably be sub $700, but there's a reason they sell them for so cheap, is because those keyboards are not known for aging very well, and they're not getting the latest software support. So in my view, if $700 is still too much for your affordable laptop market, then first of all, just accept that you're not going to be able to buy a MacBook for sub $700 that's still getting the latest version of macOS, unless you just found some crazy great deal from your Aunt Sherry. But secondly, I would recommend probably going back as far as like the 2015 MacBook Pros, because they had legacy ports, which Apple has admitted was wrong to get rid of, and they have a more reliable keyboard in place. And they'll still have a Retina display. You know, obviously they're not going to have a great webcam, and neither is the M1 MacBook Air, but here's the thing. Because it's an M1 MacBook Air, that gets macOS Ventura. You can use your iPhone. As long as you have an iPhone from the past 5 years, basically that will work with continuity camera, and that will be a way better webcam. And because of all the money you'll save by getting the M1 MacBook Air, you can afford to even get, you know, the phone mount or just a cheap little tripod to prop your phone up if that's a big concern to you. Whereas if you're relying back on those old 2015 MacBook Pros or 2016, 2017, those aren't going to have great webcams, and they're going to have thermal throttling issues. They definitely won't have the performance or the battery life that the M1 MacBook Air offers. Not to mention, M1 MacBook Air, really cool thing about it is it's cool. It doesn't have fans, which means like all those other MacBook Pros, when you're doing just basic web browsing with Google Chrome, because I'm used to Chrome, just your simple university or college websites are going to be revving up those fans really loud on your MacBook, and it's going to sound like a 747, whereas your M1 MacBook Air, unless you're playing music, that thing's going to be absolutely dead silent. And the display is ultimately pretty good for the price range it's in, and if you just want like a perfect little laptop to go along with your Apple ecosystem, with your iPhone, you know, it syncs with iMessage, it still supports AirDrop. This is something that I think is going to last a very long time and likely easily get 7 to 8 years of macOS support, and probably not be left out of too many features. It's great if you're not looking for bells and whistles in your laptop, like having a notch in your display. Ooh, so fancy. And having MagSafe. USB-C is the future, and that's already on iPads. It's probably even coming to iPhones later, so it's great that the MacBook Air still has that. It still has a headphone jack. In the future, you'll probably be able to just use that one charge brick that comes with your MacBook Air and the USB-C cable to charge your phone, your iPad, and your MacBook, and then you don't have to even think about upgrading for many years down the road. So basically, I think if you're asking the question, if you're coming to me saying, what MacBook should I get? It means that you probably should just get the M1 MacBook Air. Because if you're the type of person that really needs the M2 MacBook Air because you really love that design, you love saving that 0.1 pounds out of the overall weight, or you really need the ProMotion display from the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros, you already know what you need. You're not on the fence. But if you're coming to me asking which one you think I'm gonna recommend to you, it's gotta be M1 Air. That is just such an absurdly good deal. Now seeing them go for the low $700, that means you could buy two M1 MacBook Airs with 512 gigs of storage together for less money than it would cost to get a heavily discounted 14-inch MacBook Pro. So that's just how insanely cheap these things are getting, and I still think, even though they're cheap, they're very capable. They have great battery life, reliable keyboard, fantastic speakers and display. Like, you're just not gonna find a better laptop for being a part of the Apple ecosystem and aging. I don't think, even if you're comparing these to your cheapo $600, $700 Windows laptops, those battery lives aren't gonna age as well. They're not gonna have performance as good as the M1 chip, and they're probably not gonna get software support as long as the M1 MacBook Air is. So, best overall value laptop you can get, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree down below. Thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly with Tailosive Tech Pro. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see y'all in the next one.